Hi again, everybody. Welcome to the March edition of the Recovery Hour here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I'm your host, Rod Peterson, a person in recovery. And as you can see on your screen, joined as always by our co-host, addictions counselor, Rand T. Tell your friends we're live on this Wednesday night for the March edition of the show, March 16th. Share it. Go down to the bottom of your screen and click share if you like what we're doing, if you like the show and you'd like your friends to join the discussion on recovery. We do it once a month. We talk about recovery from addiction, other substance-related issues, mental health maladies, and so forth. And the topic this month, Rand, as you know, is women in recovery, celebrating women in recovery. And appropriately enough, International Women's Day was March 8th, and we've got a group of courageous, beautiful women that are going to be joining us in the next segment to tell their story and answer some questions, and you're going to be moderating that panel. It's good to see you again, my friend. And when we talk about women in recovery, what's the first thing that pops into your mind, with the title of that theme?
Well, I think the first thing that pops into my mind is that it's been a difficult road for a lot of women to get into recovery, simply because it's not something that we typically associate with women. A lot of women's substance use over the years has been hidden. Prior to the women's movement, a huge percentage of women were working in the home, and people didn't see them. The men were out going to bars and stuff like that, and a lot of women's drinking happened in isolation, and a lot of that continued. And I think the other thing that continued was the attitude around that somehow or another there was shame attached to it, and you should hide it.
Boy, does that trigger a lot of things. And some of the topics that I know is going to come up with our panel tonight is the sober dates, or the length of sobriety for the ladies that are joining us, the stigma around women in recovery, if there is a thing, and I'm sure there is, why they feel it's important to be open about their recovery, reducing shame, as you say, recovering together as women, and female-focused recovery. So you could probably go till midnight tonight, Rand. But the one thing when I think about women in recovery, the first thing that came to my mind was when I first began going to 12-step meetings just over 7 years ago, I couldn't believe how many women were there. A dumb bias probably on my behalf, because when you simply look at the numbers, would you not agree that it's a full half of the population that battles substance abuse disorders are female? Why not? Half the population's female. So yeah. I found that a little odd, and I shouldn't have.
It's not a gender-specific problem. But like I said, there has been traditionally a lot of stigma about getting into recovery. And I think that was a bigger barrier for a lot of women. And I'm going to talk to our guest tonight about that and just kind of see how they perceive that. I think that the other thing which is an issue is that there are some biological differences. Women have a difficult time, not a difficult time, but a different time processing alcohol. They're missing a liver enzyme that makes their blood alcohol stay up higher longer. And they have less body water than men do. So when they do drink, their blood alcohol goes up a little bit higher than ours do. And so the substance affects them a little bit differently. But just like us, most substance problems, whether it's men or women, is an attempt to fix something, an attempt to manage something about emotional discomfort at some level. And some just becomes a bad habit. You start drinking 1 or 2 drinks a day just to sort of bring yourself down, and then 1 to 2 gets to be 3 or 4, and then 3 or 4 becomes 5 or 6. And then you're in trouble, because as soon as you stop drinking, you start to go into withdrawal, and that's uncomfortable. So, there's an interesting process that goes on.
It's fascinating, and women face pressures that you and I wouldn't, and we're bombarded with it all the time. I saw a thing on social media the other day. A lady jokingly took a picture of her child's drawing. Maybe you saw it. It said, "Mommy likes to drink." and it was the woman at the kitchen table with a glass of wine in front of her. And
Yeah.
she wrote something along the lines of, "Don't you love when your kids embarrass you?" Well, the kid didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed
Yeah.
yourself. And I think a few years ago, the fastest growing segment demographic of people coming into recovery was young moms.
Yeah.
And you've seen that mommy needs wine, but it's not a laughing matter. When I saw that poster, my heart sank, or that post, my heart sank. But that's why I don't work with women, because as you know, and everybody should know, there's more than enough work in the segment that I deal with,
Yeah.
which is men in sports and entertainment and military. But you do work with women. You understand the pressures far more than I do, but it's completely different than men in recovery. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you agree?
Yeah, it is different. There's been and I'm just going to go on a little tangent here. There's been a huge marketing push towards women. So the pinking of alcohol and the pinking of drinking to make it more attractive to women, because I think the fact that a lot of women's alcohol, specifically alcohol use, was hidden. Alcohol marketing companies worked really hard at changing that, which in turn sort of changed the amount and the frequency that drinking was happening, and it made it more public. The fact that it made it more public, I think, also made it a little bit easier for people to get into recovery because they weren't hiding everything. So, there's both edges to that blade.
But is there not that there's some key reasons why this term female-focused recovery and recovery together is so important?
Well,
Because because they can sit together and talk about their issues as women.
yeah, and I think one of the things that was a huge issue, and it still is an issue, is that a lot of women who move into co-ed recovery groups get hit on, and that's really awful. Like men who are in those groups really should know better, but because they are in recovery themselves, and certainly not everybody that goes to a 12-step meeting is emotionally healthy. And so, I've dealt with lots and lots of young women who don't want to go back to a community-based recovery meeting because they're getting looked at, they're getting hit on, they're getting asked inappropriate questions and stuff like that. And that really annoys me. And I've over the years called out a few people on what they are doing, but that still makes it difficult for them to go back. It's just one more situation that increases a barrier for them. So there's lots to learn on both sides, but there's some really strong women's recovery movements. One of them is called She Recovers. The Faces and Voices of Recovery in Canada was started and run by women who I know well, and they are really strong advocates for recovery, and really strong women who are not afraid to talk about the fact that they are in recovery. And the work that we're doing with this show, trying to get rid of stigma, trying to let people understand that you can be happy not using drugs or alcohol and be okay with that. It's not something you have to hide. I think is pretty important, and it's a bigger jump for females.
Absolutely. And I think that why did we take so long? This is about our 28th or 29th episode, I think, to have the theme Women in Recovery. Maybe it's because we have had a female producer before, but we have a new producer in the form of Kira.
Yeah.
And my mind is racing as you say this, because maybe somebody's at home watching this, a female, and she's thinking that she'd like to take that first step, but doesn't know where to begin. And I've been in recovery for, as I say, just over 7 years, and I know the phrase 13th step.
Yeah.
And it's elbow and laugh. It's not a laughing matter. For instance, when I say I don't work with women, I'm not dead set against it. There's a young gal that I work with. She's in sports. This is how it came to be. And she relapsed a while back. And I said, she wanted to go to a meeting. And I said, you're vulnerable right now. I wouldn't send you, because she was in a tough spot. And people need to know that this is a safe place. Recovery is a safe place. And maybe that's part of our mandate every month, but also tonight, is to make people aware that it is a safe place to take that first step to get help.
Yeah. And I think if we look back on our shows, we've had a lot of women guests. So, we certainly haven't excluded them for any reason. And I know in the schools that I work in, probably 60 to 70% of the kids that I deal with are females. And one of the huge advantages that I think females have over us is that typically they are more emotionally aware, more emotionally attuned. And so when you start to have those emotional conversations about kind of what happens when you get better, I think that speaks more clearly to them than it speaks to guys. So,
well, I'm gonna join you for the final segment. I'm gonna step aside. I'm very interested to hear what our guests Lindsay, Carmen, and Shauna have to say tonight. So, Rand, break a leg monitoring it. I know you will. And I want to tell our viewers that the Recovery Hour is brought to you in part by SGI. Impaired driving is the leading cause of death on Saskatchewan's roads. SGI's Be a Good Wingman campaign encourages people to watch out for each other. Remember, when someone's impaired, their judgment is also impaired. Be a friend for life. Don't let impaired friends drive. The Recovery Hour continues after this break. Rand will host the all-female panel under our theme, Women in Recovery. You're watching the Recovery Hour on Facebook Live and YouTube Live.
There's something for everyone at the Mad Greek Eatery. Delicious Greek dishes, pizza, lasagna, pastas, soups, salads, and much more. The Mad Greek Eatery brings the best authentic Greek cuisine right to you. Available for licensed dining, events, delivery, and takeout. For the best taste and huge portions, there is only one place. Visit the Mad Greek Eatery, downtown Moose Jaw. Call for takeout and delivery today.
Hi, welcome back to our Recovery Hour, and we have three very special guests with us, Lindsay, Carmen, and Shauna. Thank you very much for joining us and being brave enough and courageous enough to share your stories. So, Lindsay, you've got the microphone. So,
yes, I do.
So guess what that means? I'm going to talk to you first. So, can you tell me how long you've been drug and alcohol free?
I've been sober for 4.5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it would appear that you're about to have a baby.
I am. I am 9 months pregnant right now.
And is that likely going to happen in the next 2 or 3 minutes?
I really hope not.
Okay. You said it was being pretty active. So.
It's very excited to be on the show, and so am I.
Good. And do you know what you're having?
I don't.
Okay, so this is going to be a big surprise.
Surprise, yes.
So what happened to make you realize that you needed to make some changes? What was the thing that happened that
Yeah, I think a lot of it was my family telling me that I was embarrassing, and yeah, me also coming to terms with the fact that, my drinking was getting out of hand. I couldn't control how much I was drinking anymore, and I was doing things that I wouldn't do sober. And so, yeah, I just kind of wanted to start a road of recovery and see where that led me. I wasn't necessarily sure that I wanted to be sober forever, but once I got sober and I was doing well, I realized that my life is so much better with sobriety, and so I decided to keep doing it.
Cool. Good
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, very good choice.
So that's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, what the heck am I going to do if I stop drinking? 'Cause
Yeah.
how old were you when you started?
Oh, 19, because that's when the legal drinking age is.
No, we want to tell the truth.
Probably in high school. Yeah.
Like
14, 15.
yeah, and that's
My
that's
mom's watching.
it's too late to change it,
too
so you can
late.
tell the truth.
Yeah, so in high school.
And what was your drinking like then?
Oh, about the same. A lot of,
So too much,
Too much.
too much, and too
binging,
often.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You wanted to get drunk. That was the goal.
And so, what has gotten better since you stopped?
Literally everything. My life has completely changed. In sobriety, I met a person who's also in recovery, and we're having a baby, and I have a business, and I never would have been able to do those things while I was still drinking. I was too focused on partying, and I wasn't saving money. I wasn't having real relationships with people. It was all very superficial.
How's your relationship with yourself since you've been in recovery?
Dramatically different. I have self-worth again.
Yeah.
I have confidence in who I am. I'm not ashamed of anything anymore. All the things that I did brought me here, and here's pretty good.
And what was getting into recovery difficult for you? Like, were there barriers that you struggled with, or structural barriers that you faced?
Yeah, not really for me. I really took to all women's groups, and I found sisters in sobriety, and it's been really, really, really powerful for me. And I have great friends that are also in recovery, and ever since I've kind of started to belong to that, I feel like that's where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to pass that over to Carmen? Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Nervous.
That's okay. So I'm going to ask you the same question.
Mm-hmm.
What happened that made you realize that you had to stop doing what you were doing and change things?
Well, I was using every day, and I couldn't function without. And I just finally came to the realization one day that I was either going to lose everything and even possibly my life, or get better. And at that point, I just knew my time was out, and I needed to get into recovery, or I wasn't going to be on this earth any longer.
And who helped you both come to that understanding, but also show you where the doors were?
Well, I had friends in recovery, but I didn't know a lot about it at the time. So the first person I asked for help was my parents, my mom. And
How old were you when you made this choice?
33?
Okay.
Not that long ago.
And how long have you been sober?
So I just hit 1,000 days, so just over 2.5
Congratulations.
years, yeah.
Did you have a 1,000-day party?
No. I celebrated with my son.
Oh, okay. And you have children?
I have one son. He's 6 years old, yeah.
So some of the time he was growing up, you were in active addiction.
Yes, yeah.
And may I ask what your drugs of choice were?
Definitely opioids.
Okay.
I started off being prescribed medication after surgeries, and it just escalated from there over 10 years.
And was there substance use before that?
There had been like when I was younger, but it wasn't a continuum. I kind of switched from one to another, mostly depending on who I was with, like what partner I was with and what they used. I was very much a people pleaser, and I just kind of jumped on the bandwagon with whatever my boyfriend happened to be using. So the last 10 years that I was using was with my husband at the time, my son's father. Yeah.
So your son's now 6.
Yes.
Does he ever talk about how things used to be and how mom is now, or?
No, he doesn't remember. When he was little, it was really hard for me to leave him to go to treatment, but I knew I had to do it. And we told him that mom was sick and that she needed to get help, and she was going to the happy place. So,
okay. Well, and that's and it looks like that's what happened because you look
it
happy.
did. It absolutely did. But he doesn't remember. Like, I'll ask him about it. He doesn't remember me any differently than I am today, which is amazing for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So treatment's something that I didn't talk to. Forgot your name. I'm sorry, Lindsay, about. Where did you go to treatment?
So I actually called detox, and I was gonna just admit myself and then try and get into treatment. But there was gonna be a 3-month wait after detox, and the withdrawals and my sickness, just trying to get off. I tried so many times. They were so bad. And I also have a lot of codependency, a lot of anxiety, depression, like stuff that underneath that needed to be dealt with. And so 3 months was a really long time. And so when I told my parents, I was lucky enough that they said, no, like we're gonna send you to treatment. We'll pay for it, and you can just pay us back. And so I went to BC.
So which center in BC?
Options.
Okay.
Yeah, Options in Kelowna.
And what do you feel that did for you?
It was incredible. I kept my addiction a secret from everyone, so I led a completely double life. I worked for the government. My family didn't know. My friends didn't know. I just isolated with my husband. And so being able to go to treatment where everyone who worked there and everyone who was there was an addict and knew what I was going through was a complete life changer. And even since being back and being around people in recovery, I had so much shame and guilt around my addiction because I felt like I was a bad mom, that I was weak, I was a bad person. I didn't know it was a disease, you know. I just thought it was me, right? And I had no willpower. And so going to treatment and learning why people become addicts and that I'm not alone was life-changing for me. Yeah.
So one of the things that we've learned in the last few years is that trauma is a big factor in this. So did the treatment program help you learn how to address and deal with that?
Yeah. Like I worked through a 12-step program. I started out there. I did learn that addiction is really just a symptom of a bigger problem, and that there is so much trauma and resentment and underlying emotions that led to where I had gotten to, that I was just trying to numb. And so I was able to work through that stuff with a counselor and through talking to people who understood me. And so then now I'm able to be sober and clean and happy and deal with my emotions in a healthy way.
So one of the things that often is used to help people particularly with opiate issues, are opiate agonist therapy, like Suboxone or methadone. Were you able to access those?
Yeah, I was given those options, and I ended up using Suboxone to get off the opiates because I was on such a high self-administering, such a high dose of fentanyl at that time that, like, even just going down to my normal prescription, I was too sick. So that was the route that my counselor decided was best for me.
Well, and that's really smart. Like that that really helps us through that initial process of getting over that the huge withdrawal piece that often just pushes people
Yes.
back to continue to use.
And it gave me like a sense of security too, just knowing that there's that blocker in there. You
Yeah.
know, I truly believe if I ever go back out, I will die if I use again, because I've seen it happen so much with opioids. But it's just nice to know that I like had that second defense.
And are you continuing to use that, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And lots of people stay on that like lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's not an issue for
Yeah.
anybody.
I mean, it can be for some people in recovery. I know that it's another thing that people have different opinions on, but I was like, it helps me with my pain, and I reduce the dosage, and because
Yeah.
I was prescribed medication for a reason in the beginning, right? And it's just something that if I keep working on myself, then I know I'm not going to have an issue with it.
So, what else are you doing to work on yourself? Because that's a really important piece and a
Yeah.
really interesting question.
So I go to counseling. I did schooling in neuro-linguistic programming and timeline therapy. I read self-help books. I'm a member of several 12-step programs because, I mean, I just feel like if you can be addicted to something, then I am.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time with women in recovery because, like, that's where I feel the most comfortable. I'm trying to be more open about my addiction to help people out there, like how I was, that I didn't know, just so that I can put the word out that, like, it's okay. It's okay to be an addict, and there is help. And then I just spend so much time with my family because I wasted so much time, and my son, yeah.
Thank you. So now I'll pick on Shauna. Hi, Shauna.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm pretty good. You?
I am well, thank you. I've been sober for a long time, and I really enjoy it, and I have a lot of fun, and I feel good, and so I'm happy.
That's
So you all are part of some of the same 12-step support programs.
Yes.
So, Shauna, what do those do for you?
They definitely lift my spirits if I'm down or something.
Like in what way?
Just knowing that you're not the only one who's having thoughts and feelings, and knowing it's okay to feel that way, knowing that all of them have to go 24 hours a day as well. It's like a separate little family that just can give you something your family can't.
Yeah.
But I honestly give or thank them a lot for my sobriety, because without them, I don't think I could do it.
Well, one of the things that I've heard multiple times in multiple meetings, when somebody comes in fairly quickly, they will say, "This is the first place I feel like I fit. First
Yes.
place I feel like I belong."
Yeah.
Did that happen to you?
Yes. The woman who I really look up to and helped me through a lot. When I heard her story, I was like, oh my God, that's me. I remember when I told somebody the reason I drank so much was because I liked the way it made me feel numb. Just the sense of calm that comes over your body. And they kind of looked at me weird and said, I've never heard that before. But then when I heard someone else say they enjoyed the sense of calm that came over them, it's like, okay, I'm in the right place. You know, you're not right in the head for thinking that way. You're normal.
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
Well, I mean, as normal as we get.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, I was reading a book by Anna Lemke called Dopamine Nation. And she made a really interesting comment in there. She said people in recovery are new prophets. They're the people that can show the rest of society actually how to live real, like how to be ourselves, how to be okay with being ourselves. So how does advocating recovery feel for you, and why do you think that's important?
I definitely feel it's important. I'm very open about my sobriety, and about everything that I've been through and the struggles that I faced. I think it's very important for myself and other women, if a newcomer comes, or we're very welcoming. We're very open to sharing our experiences, hoping that something we say will help them. I mean, without having someone to have your back, or to be able to pick up the phone and phone somebody and say, hey, I'm having a really hard day. I want a drink. Can we talk? I mean, if you can help one person, just one day, or to just put down that drink, I mean, it's a really great feeling to know that you can be supportive and get the same support back if you need it.
And that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do. Like, people tend to think we should be totally self-sufficient, that we should be able to figure everything out on our own, that somehow or another it's a bit of a weakness to ask for help. And one of the things that recovery programs really advocate is the sense of community that's created. I know if you look at the research around the development of substance problems, it's very often not learning how to connect with people and feeling different, feeling like you don't know how to fit in. And, most of us, our initial substance experiences were with other kids, teenagers. How old were you when you started?
Pardon?
How old were you when you first drank or drugged or whatever it was that you first did?
I was still in elementary school when I first experimented with everything.
And that's really common. Like, the average age of first use of alcohol in Saskatchewan is 11.
Yeah. And I never
that
really
scares
thought
me.
it was a problem, because it wasn't. I knew there was something, because one was never enough. I always had to have more.
Yeah.
And then it just kept getting to the point where I needed it every day.
And the common word for that is shy. You've obviously overcome that to a huge degree, because you're here talking.
I know.
Holding
it's
a
a big
microphone.
step for me.
I know. Well, and it's a big step for you, but it's also a really important step for everybody else out there who's shy and don't think that they could ever do this.
Yeah.
And so, what else do you do to kind of get past that nature of not being a wild extrovert?
I like to get together with all the ladies in my life. I love spending time with family. My 4 girls are extremely a big part of my life. They're really separate in ages, so it's nice. I do have an adult daughter, so she was around to see the most of it, but she hasn't really talked about it. I try to get out and enjoy nature. I try to self-care, whether it's even a warm bath or just reading a book or just little things. I know if I stay in the house for too long, I do get in a funk, and it's knowing when to reach out to have that support and that help that you need.
Well, knowing and having enough courage to do it, because
Yeah.
it absolutely takes courage to do that. So let's go back to Lindsay here for a few minutes. So we've had a couple of slightly different conversations. So other than 12-step meetings, what else are you doing to make you feel good about you, to help you learn how to manage your emotions and stuff like that?
I'm not sure I do manage my emotions.
Well, you're here.
I'm just
You haven't
kidding.
started to scream or cry yet. So.
Yet. It's early.
Yeah.
Yeah, counseling was definitely a major thing for me to learn how to deal with my emotions. I think that was invaluable. Yeah, reading a lot of self-help books. When I first started trying out sobriety, I had a lot of books by women who had the same issues as me, and I could read about it and digest it and understand, what I could do. And they have lots of books to tell you what
So
you need
what
to
are
do.
some of your favorite books?
My favorite book is The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober by Catherine Gray.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of her. What else? There's a book called Wasted. It was like
Yeah.
a BC counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like real people who have been in that situation, and I like reading about it because then I feel like, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they got out of it, and they actually
Exactly.
understand.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, self-care, like, doing your makeup or having a bath or whatever girly thing you like doing, that's fun.
Well, and guys like to have baths too, I'm sure. But
True.
What that really is saying is that you're worth taking care of.
Yes.
You're
yeah,
worth paying attention to.
definitely.
And usually when we are in active addiction, we aren't doing that.
Yeah.
We aren't paying attention to
Correct.
what we need. We're paying attention to what we want right then.
Right.
And so, did you go to treatment?
No, I opted out of that, actually.
You had an option.
Well, I was going to. I actually ended up in the psych ward, and I was going to go to treatment. And then I had talked to the psychiatrist there, and she had said, you didn't end up in here because you drank again. So I don't know that that's the issue. So I did take some courses on cognitive behavioral therapy in order to deal with my emotions, and that seemed to work, and I didn't need to go to treatment. But had I not been able to stay sober, I for sure would have.
And so most of the work that you've done is a combination of counseling and 12-step meetings.
Yes, yeah.
So what do you get out of the 12-step meetings? Because lots of people sort of discount those as they don't
For
like
sure.
them and
Yeah, and
not for me kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think I was that person before I actually went to any kind of group. I didn't think that was for me. I for sure thought, that's not the route that I would go. It's very, religious and all of that kind of stuff. But
Is that true?
no, it's
So
spiritual.
explain that because
Yeah.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
going
a big
because it's all
deterrent.
about God stuff and
For
blah,
sure.
blah, blah, which isn't true.
No.
But people...
It's definitely not true. And I'm a very spiritual person. So I believe that there's a bigger purpose to all of this. I think I'm here for a reason. Hopefully someone hears something that I say that helps them. And for me, the 12-step programs just basically say, you have to believe that there's something bigger than you.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean it's God.
No, nature, love,
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly.
So they also have steps that are designed to kind of help you learn stuff that you didn't learn.
Correct, yeah.
So do you do step groups and step work and things like that?
I have done all of that kind of work. I'm definitely overdue for some of that. Guilty. But yeah, those are very helpful. It just gives you a kind of guideline on how to live life on life's terms. And I didn't know how to do that before. I had no clue. I lived in chaos, and I really liked the chaos. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I figured out how to take accountability for myself and admit the things that were wrong about me and where I was at fault in life and being very selfish that I realized, okay, I can work on this. I can be a better person.
Yeah. Let's go back to Carmen for a minute. Save you, right? So Carmen, what do the 12-step programs do for you?
Well, first of all, just having that place where I can go and I can talk candidly, because it's true what Shauna said. You can't talk to just regular normies about what's going on in your head without getting some weird looks. But I can go into a meeting and say exactly what's on my mind, and people understand. And it gives me a place to go. Like if I'm having a bad night or I'm just feeling stressed or anxious, if I go there, I leave feeling better. Whether someone said something I needed to hear or whether, maybe I've had a good share and words have come through me. So yeah, it's just the fellowship and having people to support and love you until you can love yourself, really.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens there. We get into a community, like you said, that care about us. I'll argue that we aren't normal as well, but if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
So we've just got a couple of seconds left. Does anybody want to say anything? Okay.
I just think that, like, if there is anyone out there that is struggling or needs help, just don't have any shame or be afraid to ask for help,
Yeah.
because I wish I did it a long time before I actually did. And there's so many people who care and want to help. So that's all.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's why we're doing this show, is to raise awareness about this stuff. So I admire your courage. Thank you very much for coming out. I hope you continue on your positive journey. I hope your baby is beautiful. I'm sure she will be. And that'll keep you busy for the next 18 years at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
There's something for everyone at the Mad Greek Eatery. Delicious Greek dishes, pizza, lasagna, pastas, soups, salads, and much more. The Mad Greek Eatery brings the best authentic Greek cuisine right to you. Available for licensed dining, events, delivery, and takeout. For the best taste and huge portions, there is only one place. Visit the Mad Greek Eatery, downtown Moose Jaw. Call for takeout and delivery today.
Hi.
Welcome back to the recovery area. Hey, Rand, sorry, my man. Just want to say that we're brought to you in part by SGI Canada. And other than that, Mr. Teed, if I may, this doesn't happen very often, but I'm speechless. If I could
What?
stand up, if I wasn't strapped in here, yeah, I would be giving these ladies a standing ovation and
They were
yourself
really
for the
good.
job that you did.
I was
Oh.
really pleased with them. And we were chatting
You guys
before,
Yeah.
and they were all
Uh-huh.
kind of nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I said, it'll go really fast, and don't worry. And they were beautiful.
Well, you wouldn't have known that they were nervous at all. But to be honest with you, I feel a little sheepish being on here right now because I could have listened to them all night. I was hanging on their every word. And I guess that's why you and I are in this recovery business, because we find it fascinating. But I just want to say bravo to them. And I have thoughts. I've written a bunch of notes here on what they thought. But what's your? Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
the smiles on
Yeah.
their faces when they were speaking, but also when they were watching the others speak,
Yeah.
was just hit me right there. If that doesn't tell you what recovery does for you, I don't know what would.
Well, and I think that's the big thing that people miss is somehow or another they think if I get into recovery, I'm not going to have any fun. And I mean, and that is so narrow-minded and so negative. It's just absolutely not true. We got a bunch of questions and stuff up here. I don't know if you can see them too.
I only if they put them on the screen. So
Okay.
you go ahead and read them or whatever
Well,
you got
so
to do.
there's one from Carol. Thanks you, ladies. Knowing that we are not alone in opening up your heart and soul, it's my pleasure knowing you. And I don't know what we have for viewers, but I know that we get 1,000, 1,500 views kind of ish per show. People who see them realize that regular people who have lives are in recovery. That's so important because there's still that stigma piece about getting into recovery. Somehow or another, we're less than if we do that, and that's just not true. One of the, I think it was Carmen, used the word opinion a few times, and lots of people have opinions about things. Lots of people have belly buttons too. But that doesn't mean that the opinions are fact. And there's so much new research about recovery and about the roots of addiction and how valuable recovery is that I think a lot of what we need to do is help people get past those old archaic opinions about what addiction is all about and what recovery is all about.
Yeah, well, I feel like just the female component of what you guys have done tonight is just taking it to another level. And I want to say to Kira Novak, the producer, what a wonderful job of putting this all together. Not that we're wrapping up, but I just want to say I'm speechless with it. But, and I liked your question to the one gal, Lindsay, about, what books do you like? What self-help books? I never read The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, but I've heard about it. And I'm in a book right now that I just literally can't put down.
What's that?
Alcoholic Addicts. I'm obsessed. It's called The Law of Attraction, Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
It has nothing. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you read it?
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we share a lot of the same stuff. I'm almost done The Awakened Brain, too, by the way. I'll give you that when I'm done. But this has nothing to do at all with addiction. I mean, it's like I just got sober, got through that, and now it's dealing with what other people think. And if I mentioned the smiles, the other note that I had down, I wish we had a bell or a counter going every time the term shame came up with those ladies.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me. And stick with me on this.
Okay.
Because the other day, I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but there was a We Do Recover Challenge, hashtag We Do Recover Challenge, where we cut and pasted something, put it to our status. And it was about if you haven't dealt with addiction or alcoholism, your opinion doesn't matter because you don't know anything about it. And so a friend of mine in Seattle wrote in and he said, Rod, you being open with this must be very difficult, but it's helping so many lives. And again, about being open. And Ren, I've been open about it pretty much since day one with your encouragement. Yeah. And I've never been ashamed of being in recovery. Not one day have I been ashamed of being in recovery. Now, I'm either really slow to pick up that I should be, or I'm way ahead of everybody else. But I get the shame of being an alcoholic addict. I felt that to the core for 25 years. And you heard me say, I'm not going to live that way anymore. I'm not going to be ashamed. And I didn't have to teach myself that. That was the way I felt the day that I never looked back. Well, so I don't really understand the shame piece.
Well, I think your dad did a lot of work in getting people past the shame thing. And that probably was part of your ease in getting into being open about it, because he was. And I know that you admired him, and even though you had 25 years where you were kind of off track, that those earlier things, recognizing what our dads believed in can be really helpful to us. And that was probably, a big part of that for you.
Well, yeah. Continue, sorry.
Well, I was just going to look at a couple of more comments. Carrie says, thanks for having the courage to share your inspiring stories. Joe says, thanks, ladies, for inspiring us fine examples of sober living. And, that's the other thing, like people, and I said it to the one girl, like there's this expectation that if you quit drinking or drugging, you're not going to have any fun. And they were fun. Like they, I could have talked to them all night. They were really interesting.
Yeah, I could have listened to them all night. And
that,
I don't know, I guess that's what's good about this show. I mean, I'm living, as you know, in a resort and casino.
Yeah.
On Treaty 7 land just outside Calgary. I couldn't have lived here. The old me. A, I would have been dead. But B, I've got a free tab for everything, and I've never been a gambler, ever.
Yeah.
So,
Be careful
just
with that.
and then I don't even start. I'm too cheap.
Yeah.
I'm too cheap, Rand, to even spend $2 on a spin of a wheel. But the other thing I had written down was family, and I understand Friday morning the topic was in our usual 12-step meeting was family, and I slept through it. I didn't sleep
You had
in,
food
but I was sick.
poisoning. You told me.
As it turned out, yeah. But you mentioned my dad. Like with the family thing, I might have passed. I might have said, I'm going to take a knee on this one. Because my dad and I, once I started drinking, never talked about it. As hard as that may be to believe,
Yeah.
I'm sure I was a major disappointment to him, but I also know that he knew what I was battling. And I just thought it was interesting what the lady said, that you can't speak with family about this. And they're right.
Some
I mean,
families, but
yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
well, the meeting that we had last week was about kind of the impact on the family and what the family has to do to get better too, and that's an important piece as well, because when a family has had somebody with an active addiction as part of their family for a few years, that really affects them too. I just had a meeting with a family before I came here, and one of the questions was, well, what are we supposed to do now? And I said, what you're supposed to do now is what you've always supposed to do, is just love your daughter, and treat her with respect, and don't bring up the past. But families feel the same shame, the same desire to hide things as a person with addiction does. And, I really think that the root of that shame piece is people are afraid of people who have active addictions. I think they don't understand. And when we don't understand something, that generates fear, and then that puts us in our stress system. And then we want to fight, run, or hide, one of those three things, and that's what happens in families, and it happens to us too. You're nodding in agreement,
but why,
or shaking your head.
No, I'm nodding in agreement, and I'm just wondering why. I go, here's me that would never ask for help or reach out. So, I was told, don't feel ashamed of saying these things, to say to people, why don't you reach out? Because I never would. I was too stupid and had to face an intervention. But, for instance, I'm dealing with the family that the daughter went away to treatment, God bless her, and is doing very well. But she's had lost her job, lost her vehicle, lost literally everything. And shortly out of treatment, it's, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to do this? When are you? And I'm like, can you just back off?
Yeah.
She's done everything she needs to do. It's literally one day at a time. And you putting this stuff in her head is what put her in there in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just wish that people would reach out. And that's the part of the reason, you and I talked on the phone, was it this afternoon or yesterday?
Yesterday.
We talked each day. Yeah. But with here where I am in Calgary, I've had 4 guys just blurt out various things to me. How did you quit drinking? Or, I'm struggling. What do I do? And I thought, I'm so glad that I'm open about this, so they knew that they could. Because it's so difficult to do,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and I talk to probably 50 kids a week, and there's a recognition that there's a problem usually, but it's fixing in their heads. It's fixing so many things for them that there's a huge fear of letting go of that. But I was talking to a kid today who had a fairly significant cannabis problem for a couple of years, and he's on 10 days drug free. And I said, "How are you feeling?" And he said, "I'm feeling great." He said, I don't remember feeling this good ever. And you know, people are so resistant to even explore that. Like somehow or another they're giving up something that's helping them, and really it's what it's doing is just taking them away from themselves. And so, that one little discussion we had about self-care, and really what we're doing when we are practicing self-care is honoring ourselves. We're respecting ourselves. We're respecting the fact that we need self-compassion. I was watching a bit of a self-compassion class today, and that is such an interesting concept that's foreign to us in lots of ways, that we deserve to take care of ourselves. We deserve to treat ourselves in the same way that we would treat somebody else who is hurting, who needs help.
Isn't it interesting, though, that everybody's self-care definition is different? When she talked about taking a bath, I'd like to take a bath. Well, I do. There's a hot tub here, and I work out, and that makes me feel good and sit in the hot tub. But the concept, not to go off on another track, but of that book that I'm reading now, Law of Attraction, Health, Wealth, and Happiness, is that our natural state is intended to be in joy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to not worry and don't have fear. Well, holy smokes. To get over the don't worry thing is potentially more difficult than quitting drinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on right now. And I've shared it just about every week in those meetings that it's like I hit another level. I got sober 7 years ago. Now it's to another level of recovery.
Yeah.
To find that peace.
And there are levels. Like Ernie Kurtz, like 30 years ago, established levels of recovery. Like there's been lots of work in that. And the second piece of work, once we're comfortable being drug free, is emotional recovery, being able to deal with life on life terms and be happy about it. There's a question on the screen here. We've got a minute and a half. I'll ask you, what are you doing for self-care?
Well, me, myself, I'm working on recovery every single day. And spirituality, connection with friends that I trust,
Yeah.
the gym component, working out. And I spend a lot of time alone, and I like it.
Yeah.
A lot of people think I like it. So, how about you?
Well, same thing. Like I'm, even though I do a lot of this stuff, I'm an introvert. So I get my energy by being myself. I read every day. I have a morning spiritual routine that I've done every day for like over 40 years. I meditate at least twice a day. I'm always reading new stuff, research about addiction, research about recovery. I think I mentioned it last time. I just finished Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke, which is a absolutely fascinating look at the brain chemistry around substance use disorders and process use disorders. And I've been teaching similar kinds of stuff in schools for 20 years. And people relate to that because it takes the blame and shame out of it. It's, oh, I'm not a bad person. I dysregulated my brain chemistry. And it'll come back if I stop doing this.
Well, and Lindsay said rewiring the way that she thought. I mean, she attacked this similar to what I did, right? She went on the offensive, and it's worked for her.
Yeah.
But I should mention that just aside from the self-care, if anybody wants to know what I'm doing, I'm working with what was 2 life coaches 2 female life coaches in Florida. Now a third is a male. You might know him. His name's Alan Keller, and he's amazing. You and my sponsor, which is another guy.
Yeah.
So I've got a tremendous team.
We, my
behind
friend,
me.
are out of time.
Oh, are you telling me to shut up?
Yeah.
Well, if I may, this is the best show that we've ever had, and I applaud yourself for the job you did, Kira for putting it together, the IKS team, Jordan, Rolf, Paul, and the ladies, Lindsay, Carmen, and Shauna. I'm just speechless. So thank you so much. I'll let
Thank
you
you.
wrap it up because you've done such a great job.
We will see you next month. I'm not sure of the date yet. We talked about going on the first of the month. It's kind of the first Wednesday of the month. I'm not
First
sure
week, I believe it's April 6th.
Yeah. So we will see you then, and I believe we're looking at mental health stuff.
Perfect. That was my idea.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.